The 1R vertical battery with bumper transforms the Insta360 1R into a camera that looks, feels, stands and mounts completely differently. So let's get straight to it and take a look. To attach the vertical battery, you have to remove the existing memory card door, which is simple to do with a gentle pull. You then simply push the battery into the USB-C connector on the 1R main body. You're then meant to use the door on the vertical battery, but it only acts as a dust cap and you can't access the USB anyway when you're using the bumper. So I'd probably just leave it off and put it somewhere safe. Your camera is now ready to use, and if you squint, you can pretend that you've got a new 1X Mark II. It's amazing that simply by turning the camera vertically, how it can look so different. Purely from an aesthetic point of view, I love it, but we must look way beyond aesthetics, as you all know. With the screen this way round, you have to turn on auto rotate, which is here on the LCD menu. Now the screen will rotate around when we stand the camera vertically. One of the most talked about things with the 1R is the GoPro finger mount and the fact that the camera swivels, so if it's not straight you can sometimes see your selfie stick in your photos and videos. This was the biggest departure from the design of the 1X, which we all love. Well, this battery solves that problem, and it has an integrated 1/4 inch thread at the base of the battery, so the camera can be mounted directly to a selfie stick with no additional adapters, and it stays aligned and stays straight. I would say that this was one of the biggest benefits of using this battery with the Insta360 1R, that I could go out and shoot and I didn't have to check and then double check that the camera was straight on top of the mount. The original standard battery weighed 34 grams, and with the camera and 360 lens mod, it weighed a total of 183 grams. The vertical battery weighs 45 grams, and with the camera and 360 lens mod it weighs 139 grams. If we add the bumper to that, which we will talk about in a minute, we add an extra 14 grams, so 153 grams altogether. So even though the battery itself is 11 grams heavier than the standard battery, the overall setup using the vertical mount is 30 grams lighter. If we compare this to the 1X though, which is 114 grams, the vertical battery setup is still 39 grams heavier than the 1X. Where you're really going to notice this weight difference is when you're using something like an extended selfie stick, and even then the difference is pretty negligible. If we compare the vertical battery setup on a chest mount, even though it's a bit lighter than having the standard battery, it does now extend away from the body more, which makes it a little bit more vulnerable. It isn't going to be like wearing the 1X where you would just hardly notice it was even there. Unless you're going to use the 1R with a vertical battery on a selfie stick with minimal movement, then you really do need to use the bumper as well. The bumper is made of a thin, light, flexible plastic, and it holds all the components together, and it slips over the components in one piece, and it has two thinner rubber buttons that sit over the record and the on button. The bumper gives the vertical battery configuration a real finished look, and it makes it look like it was designed to be that way, so it definitely looks better with the bumper. The battery can be charged via the USB port on the side of the battery, and it doesn't have to be connected to the camera to charge the battery. So you don't need a designated charger, you can just use any USB charger, which is really convenient. You can also charge the battery while recording to keep it topped up, but not if you're using the bumper, because the bumper blocks access to the USB-C port, which is not very well thought out. I wanted to do some record time and overheating tests with this battery. I recorded on a full battery continuously, and after 15 minutes the battery started to get quite hot. And after 30 to 40 minutes it would have been uncomfortable to hold in my hands, but it did carry on recording. After 52 minutes of continuous recording, the battery did go into the red, but then it carried on recording for a further 4 minutes. So at 56 minutes it then stopped recording because it had overheated. Interestingly though, the camera then did stay on for a further 15 minutes, so that takes it to around about 1 hour 10 minutes, and then the battery died altogether. After the battery had cooled completely, I then tested it again with the bumper just to see if the bumper made a difference to it overheating, and the results were exactly the same. After 56 minutes of continuous recording, the the battery then overheated and the camera froze and stopped recording. It is annoying that it overheated, but I was impressed with the battery runtime at approximately an hour and 10 minutes. Most of the stuff that I shoot is quite short, so I wouldn't usually run it for that amount of time, so the overheating won't be an issue for me, but it will be a consideration for some of you. In terms of stitching, the physics of the camera has remained the same, so the lenses are the same distance apart, so you wouldn't expect any difference in the stitching. However, if we compare this shot here, there is a minor difference in the stitching around the base of the camera, but this will be largely due to the fact that the 1R with the vertical battery is slightly higher, so this will present a slightly different stitch line around the base of the camera. There are a few other disadvantages that I haven't mentioned. This battery is expensive, $49.99 for the battery and a further $10 for the bumper. You also can't use an external mic. The USB port just doesn't recognise that you've plugged one in. You can't use the lens guards because there's just no way of attaching them. With the vertical battery, the camera isn't waterproof, but you can buy the dive case, which is specifically designed to use with the vertical battery. The bumper isn't quick to remove. Don't get me wrong, it is easy to remove, but it's not quick. So when I was out filming recently for this video, the camera froze and I had to take the bumper off in order to take the battery off to reset the camera, and it's just really annoying. There is one bug that hasn't been fixed yet, and that's with the live preview screen. Even though the menu rotates when you rotate the camera vertically, the actual live preview doesn't. So the live preview is held in the wrong position. When you first use this camera in the vertical position, it just feels like you've upgraded to a brand new camera. I love the look of it. You wouldn't notice any difference from the footage it produces, but it's just a nicer configuration to have, particularly if you're used to having a more vertical 360 camera. It does feel more vulnerable in this upright position, just like the 1X did, and it isn't designed to be used as an action camera when you use it in this configuration. But if you're just using it on a tripod or on a selfie stick and you're not throwing it around too much, it does feel really centered and much nicer to use. And the biggest benefit on the selfie stick is the fact that you don't have to think about it being aligned, and you don't have to think about keeping it straight. It just is straight because you're using the 1/4 inch thread. And this benefit just can't be ignored, particularly for beginners. Let me know in the comments if you're tempted to give this vertical battery a go and to get back to having an integrated 1/4 inch thread, or are you happy with the 1R as it is? If you want to find out about other accessories that you can use with the 1R, then take a look at this video which looks at 21 accessories that I own and use. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.